Hi, welcome Frenzy Schools.
Good to see you kind of over virtually, see you and spend some time with you today.
So again, I'm Joy Roberts, one of the co-founders, and I'm here with the lovely Julie Widman, and we're excited to be joining all of our Frenzy Schools today. Those of you who have been launching Frenzy for the last year, and we have a couple of schools who are viewing, who are onboarding for the 2021 school year. And so we're super excited to gather with you here today and to have a conversation. This is a workshop, so I hope you have all shown up ready to go to work. And so I want to encourage you to grab a hold of the 7-step marketing and communication plan that was sent out to you. We're going to actually, it's called workshop because we're going to be rolling up our sleeves and going to work. It is work time. And we're going to work through the 7-step marketing and communication plan from a very practical way so that you as schools, this is a brand new resource for 2021. So this is the first time Frenzy is launching this tool and this resource to our Frenzy schools. This comes to you as part of the Frenzy program. As you know, we bundle price all of our comprehensive social emotional learning program components together. And as an extension of our partnership with NCEA, we have identified a specific need that schools have, and that is really to help you tell your story, the things that you're already doing. So we're not talking about you coming up with a new to-do list of who you have to become. We're addressing who you already are and providing you with a resource and a template that will actually help you tell your story, and it connects specifically with the needs that parents and families and your community are looking for in schools. And we're going to help you tell that story. How Frenzy connects with all that is through the lens of social and emotional learning. And so we've launched this new component of the Frenzy program that's included in your per student pricing, your low per student pricing. And so today we're going to be, like I said, rolling up our shirt sleeves, walking through the 7-step plan, and at the you're going to have a robust tool, and you're going to have templates, and you're going to have tangible resources in hand that you can actually begin applying and using actually immediately to begin to create connection and to have ongoing connection throughout the summer months with the goal of building retention and growth for your school. And so we think that, in fact, we know that social and emotional learning has always been vital. It's always been important. And in the midst of COVID-19 and in the midst of being physically distanced from each other, we believe that social and emotional learning, these competencies and skills, have become even more vital and critical as we think about coming back together as community, as we think about the upcoming year that may have rolling start dates, that may have intermittent distance learning. The importance of creating connections with our communities and with our students and with our families is vital and critical. And so today we're going to be unpacking a tool and resource that not only helps you with retention and growth, but helps you build and sustain a healthy and robust community in the midst of social distancing and social learning and physical distancing. So cannot wait to get started with all of you.
I guess, Joy, when you're talking, I just have to take a moment and just thank the Lord for kind of bringing all of this together. The idea that His plans are better than our plans, and that, He would create this robust program to teach His design for relationship to students, but then also begin to highlight through the research of NCEA the needs and the future needs, really, of continuing to connect with our communities, our people, our students, our families, and allowing us to share this resource to our schools is just really exciting. We know that there's not a roadmap. There's not a best practice of how to do this COVID-19 thing. We know that teachers and administrators across the US are feeling really overwhelmed and stressed right now. And so part of what we love to do in partnering with schools is to kind of think holistically, comprehensively. How can we come alongside our partners and support support them with the components within the Frenzy program that will really allow them to continue to do the good work that they're doing. And sharing your story through communication and marketing is really an amazing element that we can come alongside of you and help with. And so one thing before we keep going that we wanted to camp out a little bit on is the CARES Act information. If you have not heard of the CARES Act, what the CARES Act is a federally funded financial commitment to help students as they come back and schools as they come back from COVID-19. And most districts will have funding from the CARES Act. It's a $13.5 billion act that is really put into place to support all students, not just public school students, but all students as we come back. And so this CARES Act is something that private schools need to reach out to their personal LEA or their contact within the public school sector to just let them know that your school wants to participate in that funding. And so we want to give a little bit of information about that today. We have a lot more information on our website under the funding guide, so frenzy.co. Under the funding guide, it gives you information about the CARES Act, and there's links there. We also have information about title funding because many of our schools are in a place of trying to work budgets and a lot of unknowns, but what hasn't changed is oftentimes access to title funding. And so we have had great success working with schools and their title funds, Title I, Title II, and Title IV to be specific, utilizing those funds to offset the cost of the Frenzy program. And so we just wanted to give a real clear indication that that CARES Act is something new. And even if you have not participated in title funding before, you can and really should participate in the CARES Act because it is non-discriminatory and it's going to allow you, I told a principal today, make a laundry list of things that you want to do with your school in coming back from COVID-19 and be prepared to share that with your district so that you're able to take advantage of whatever funds per capita or per student comes to you. I'll also just give a shout out that there was a fabulous webinar on the NCA website about specifically the CARES Act in Catholic schools. And so if you're a person who wants more information before you act, go to that webinar or that webcast, and it's really got great information geared directly to our Catholic schools.
And so one thing specific about the CARES Act is that social and emotional learning is a component because we know what you all know already is that social and emotional learning is considered the missing link in education. And Frenzy as an organization, we function off of CASEL's 5 core competencies of social and emotional learning through the lens of scripture. But because it's based on those 5 core competencies and components, it is secure in the social emotional learning category, which allows you to get funding and resourcing for that. So excited for you to be able to take advantage of those opportunities and get the additional resources that you need, because as schools, as communities, we are all struggling and carrying the weight of what is happening with COVID-19. And so I think, Julie and I just want to say we're in this with you, and we as a Frenzy team are thinking creatively on how we can continue to support you. And on that topic, as we're looking at Frenzy for 2021, we want you to know that our team is considering distance learning. So we've all heard conversations about having rolling start dates, possibly starting and having to pull back. And so as a Frenzy team, we've been developing resources this past couple of months. We've been developing free resources and sharing them with literally thousands and thousands of teachers across the country. It's been exciting to be able to offer a resource that meets the needs during this time period. And what we've learned through that is that we have the capacity to create Frenzy in a format that works with distance learning. And so we've been able to work out some kinks, to process some ideas. We've gotten tremendous feedback on the workbooks from teachers teachers, parents, principals, administrators saying they love the workbooks, that it actually creates space for students to have self-reflective time, that's engaging, that can be assigned, that's not digital. So the workbooks have been successful, but we wanted you to know that we do, and we are thinking through digital components in case what happens in 2021. And we're also looking at creating online video content to support some of the teaching sessions for you. So if there's distance learning taking place, you've all tried the object lessons. So we're looking at having videos recorded and processed by teachers who can be used as a resource to really support you as teachers in getting through content. And so we're working on our end to find creative ways to support you in this new season.
Right. And I think really more than anything, a lot of us are preparing for a hybrid of sort. And so we definitely believe in the strength of teacher-based social emotional learning. And so when the classroom team teach that and continue to establish rapport and build relationships with their students, that is an absolute goal of ours. And we support that with everything that we believe. However, if there's a hybrid where the students are learning from home, taking some of the stress off of those classroom teachers, because we do know that at this point they are overstressed, overwhelmed, and they've been carrying the load. Very much like all other frontline workers, we consider them, we keep saying this, we consider them at the front lines with our youth, and they have been in the trenches for a lot of them for 9 weeks now, and it never ends is what we hear. And so if as a team we can provide, whether it be a parent night on social emotional learning that you can share digitally, or some of those object lessons or craft lessons or games, and we actually are able to pull in our teachers and our educational psychologists to give your teachers a break if there's a hybrid situation, then we definitely want to do that. And I think it would be kind of fun. It would make our Frenzy family bigger and more cohesive to just all be using that. And what I will say is that as a team, we do believe that we're better together, that we can do more together than any of us can do on our own. And so we are leaning on our principals, our educators across the country to learn what they're doing for best practices. And so when we hear of amazing things, we're planning to share that with you and really begin this collaborative conversation about what's working, what's not working, and how we can do this better together.
So we're going to get started. We said this is a work party. Well, maybe we didn't say the party part, but it's going to be a work party. I'm going to share a couple of videos that are going to help, a couple of slides that are going to help us process this information so that visually you have it in front of you. So here we go. We are here today again with our Frenzy Schools and excited to launch the conversation on the 7-step marketing and communication plan. And so today we're going to be doing a quick review. Many of you have watched with us the NCEA webinars where we covered the research and how that research from NCEA connects with social and emotional learning. So we're going to dip into that really quickly and ground us on why a 7-step marketing and communication plan is vital for you as schools and as school leaders to implement. And we're going to touch briefly on why it's so important for you as a school to share your story. And we're going to have a space for you throughout the webinar to be posing questions. And so when we say Q&A, we're actually, and we say this is an interactive webinar, we would like you to send questions. So if you can look down on your bar and see where you can share a comment, a Q&A section, that would be fantastic, because we would love to hear from you. And our plan today as we go through this 7-step marketing and communication plan is for you to be reviewing it and you to be saying, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, can I get some more help from you? Or because like Julie said, our goal is to provide a resource that you're actually going to be able to utilize over the course of the weeks and months to come to share and really tell your story. Sorry, I'm trying to work on my slides.
Oh,
Julie?
that's okay. I'm muted because I have kids and a husband here and a dog snoring in the background. And so then I start talking, I forget I'm muted. So we are really excited that really a few months ago, NCA came to us. I was going to start talking about that next slide, Joy, but NCA came to us and recognized that the research results that they found with this other organization that cares deeply about Catholic education really connected to the mission and vision of Friendzy and truly of social emotional learning, because when they looked at why parents, what drove parents to decide on schools, they indicated that indirectly or directly, they were all of the reasons were connected with social emotional learning. And so what you'll see here, we have I think it's a 65-page report. And what we've done is synthesize that information to kind of give you the top bullet point takeaways from that research. And again, they looked at what all parents want, so the general public, what those parents wanted. And they also looked at what Catholic parents wanted. And when we think about those two, they're different audiences. They're different, I love the squiggles, Joy. They're different audience, and we are required to communicate differently with them. However, what they were wanting, it has some overlap. And so what you're looking here on the screen is really just giving you an indication of that research and what parents wanted. And so at the very top of all parents is critical thinking, responsible decisions, wise choices, being problem solvers in this world. They wanted their students to be prepared for the job market and for college. They wanted strong in-person communication skills. And so they wanted their students to be able to communicate well with others. And they wanted schools that would monitor and measure student progress and success. And again, all parents want students to have development of a sound moral base, which I just think is great. All parents want strong character in their children.
So oh, go ahead, Julie.
No.
I was going to say, when you're looking at this list and as Julie's going through it, as we prepare for the 7-step marketing and communication, I want you to be, what do you already offer? What do you do to support critical thinking? What do you do to prepare students for the job market and college? And I want to throw out there that with confidence, because you're on the Friendzy program, when you think of the 5 core competencies of social and emotional learning, which is something that we've talked a lot about, it actually teaches critical thinking. We have self-awareness, we have self-management, we have responsible decision-making. And so that is where the critical thinking skills come into play. And when you think about what employers are looking for, they are looking for students with high social and emotional learning intelligence. And so, in fact, we've said this many times before, that the number one thing in the job market that's outpacing every other occupational need is the need for individuals with strong emotional intelligence and social skills. And so when you ask the question, are you as a school providing critical thinking, preparing for the job market, preparing for college, the answer is yes. For students to be successful in college and be able to manage the stress and pressures of college, they're going to succeed at a much higher rate if they have high emotional competency. And so when you look at developing a sound moral base, I mean, I'm speaking to our Catholic schools here, and you are doing, that is what you're all about, is teaching the whole child and literally laying that foundation. And when you are talking about teaching children to accept and embrace diversity, we go all the way back to Genesis, talking about how we're designed in the image of God, that He created us, He designed us. And so because of that, we can see diversity and celebrate diversity as a community. And then community is at the heartbeat and at the center of Catholic schools. And so this is something that parents care deeply, deeply about. And this is something you're already offering and extending. And maybe your internal community knows about it, but it's an opportunity when we talk about retention and growth to talk about it more broadly so that it supports retention in your current families, reminding them of all that you bring to the table as a Catholic school, but also it's reaching out into the larger community, inviting others in to participate in the good work that you're already doing. And the thing is, when we looked at the NCEA research, that it shows that 50% of parents are actually open to considering Catholic school. And I think it's like 85% of Catholic families are open to considering a Catholic school education. And so this is something that is going to come out in your story. And so as we unpack the 7-step marketing and communication plan, we're going to want you to continue to come back to this list over and over so that you can identify what things you're already doing in your community.
So Joy, I want you to repeat some of those stats again, because what you're really talking about is opportunity to share your story with parents who aren't currently in Catholic schools, correct? So
yes.
The Catholic school parents that aren't in Catholic schools, what percentage are willing to consider Catholic school? Was that 80%?
85%, I think, of Catholic families, if my brain is working correctly.
That's okay. So 85% of Catholic families are willing to consider Catholic schools, even though we know that 85% of Catholic families aren't currently in Catholic schools.
Right.
And so what's important about that group is to recognize that those parents would want a good balance between academic and religious instruction, that the Catholic parents who you would be talking to in your marketing communication plan want to know that you have an environment where everybody's welcome, the diversity is appreciated, and that there's emphasis on community service. Yeah. And then all parents, what did you say, 50% of all parents?
Yes. Are
50%
open
of all parents would be willing to consider Catholic schools. And we also know that not 50% is in Catholic schools currently. And so really what NCA did is they recognized this opportunity for Catholic schools to share their story, to tell who they are. And as you said before, it's not drumming up new information and new to-do lists, but it's really sharing what you've done in a way that is communicating in line to a very real and felt need from community. So I love that.
So I will go back to the slide presentation, and you're all very familiar with the 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. Again, this is the lens that it's through. This is how you're going to help tell your story and communicate your story to your families, is through the lens of social and emotional learning. And just reminding us that 3 out of 5 parents care more about the emotional health and well-being of their students than they do about academic performance. And what we know is that when you teach social and emotional learning competencies and skills, these skills, this is evidence-based, is that it actually improves the academic performance. It proactively addresses anxiety, depression, behavioral issues. And so when we practice and teach these explicit skills, it creates safer learning environments that are more conducive to learning. And so we know that when you teach these skills, it actually increases cognitive capacity because it decreases distractions and increases students' ability to identify emotions, identify appropriate responses, and make responsible decisions, and think strategically in how to do their homework and process communication. And so again, this is the starting place where we launched as Frenzy, and this is the starting place for you as you begin to develop your marketing and communication plan.
And so through Frenzy, those skills are taught explicitly, but also implicitly. And so you get to catch your students practicing those social emotional skills and subset skills and actually share and talk about them in a way that communicates what the good that you're doing. And we've seen that with our Frenzy schools do a great job this year. And we've been so inspired when they take a catchphrase that they're working on and kind of sync it up up with maybe a virtue that they're also working in or a service project that they had going on, and really created this comprehensive and really a deep story about what they were doing through social emotional learning, through a catchphrase, a Bible verse, and then all the other components that were going on at this school. And so we wanted to share today how you do that and why you should do that as a Friendly school.
Okay, so tell your story. And so what you're doing in telling your story is you're identifying the problem and you're offering the solution. What we know is that most parents they aren't actually aware of everything that Catholic schools offer. And so there's this tremendous opportunity and upside for you as a school in communicating your story. And so a lot of, again, the research showed from NCEA that a lot of parents get their understanding of Catholic schools from the national news. And we know that that's not the most accurate place for information, especially on your school, in your community, in your place. And so this is really the opportunity for you to have proactive and targeted communication with your current families and your potential families. And this communication from Catholic schools is going to bridge the knowledge and perception gaps that parents and families have about your specific school. And so nobody can tell your story best but you. And so you have this opportunity with this insight to focus on external communication around the things that parents care most about, which you're already offering. So again, it's not about you doing more, it's about you taking what you already have and sharing it proactively and targetedly to the external audiences in your community in order to invite families, Catholic families and non-Catholic families, to consider attending your school. And so that's really the heartbeat of what we're going to do through the marketing and communication plan. And so I want to take just a quick pause and make sure that you have opened up this document. You can open it up as a PDF document on your desktop. You can, many of you, it looks like, have printed this document, and so you have it in your hot hands, and you are ready to go to work on this. And so we're going to march through this process, and we're going to speak very practically on how this can help you tell your story. So again, our goal today is that you walk away knowing how to use this plan, even having thoughts and a really good start on having this plan filled out and completed. So first thing, when we consider the 7 steps of the social and emotional, or the 7 steps to the marketing and communication plan, is identifying who you are. And so our assumption here is that most of you have gone through the process of landing on your mission and vision statement and on your core values. And so if you have not, we have a solution for you. If we have 10 or more schools and you're on the Friendly program, we can work with you on developing your core values. Another thought or perspective to consider is that core values, if you haven't worked through them yet, they are a filter for all of the decisions that you make. And so when you land on what are your core values as an organization, it helps you identify what you do and what you don't do. And so these are like an anchor. And so when we start talking about telling your story, we want to anchor you into who you are, so that you don't have this pressure to become somebody that you're not. And so I want to be really clear that this plan is not trying to create you and put attributes on you that don't exist. This is not an aspirational plan. This is the core of who you are as an organization. And this is the story that really needs to be told. And so again, if our assumption is you've worked through this and you're going to take some time and fill it out. If you haven't, get in contact with us. We work with 10 or more schools on the Friendly program, and we can move through that process. I also want to tell you, we do core value training for individuals. So we take teams. So we take teachers at a school. So one of the professional developments that we're going to be offering this year as part of the Friendly program is core values. So we're going to lay out this process that teachers walk through identifying their core values so that they can be anchored into who they are and what their identity is. And the value of that as a teaching team, as a leadership team, is that when you know who you are and you know who I am, we have a greater capacity to work more effectively together. Then we can clearly identify each other's strengths, our weaknesses, our passions, the unique attributes that are brought to the team. And so developing individual core values in addition to you as a school having core values is really important to building and strengthening your team, strengthening your teachers, really equipping you with emotional intelligence skills yourself. And so this is really, I think, an exciting opportunity for you to utilize this as one of your professional development programs for your teachers this year, really understanding who they are so that you can better work together, and really taking time for you as a school to communicate to your internal team, your teachers, your core values so that you're all functioning on the same page. So this is literally ground zero of starting your marketing and communication plan.
Right. And one thing I would just add is that sometimes when you think through this, it feels big, but when you have a plan and you work the plan, then the plan can work. And any of us who have tried to accomplish something without a clear plan of attack knows that it can be much harder to do it in a way that is consistent and cohesive. And so we would just encourage you, maybe not right now when you're in the end of your school year, but when you have a moment to breathe, to begin to really work through this plan for your school. And our Frenzy schools have access not only to this plan, but to a lot of the supportive collateral material that you will need to actually implement this plan. And so that's the exciting part, and you're going to see that in a little bit.
Okay, Julie, I'm going to move to the next slide, and we'll drop in the chat the marketing and communication plan template so people can work.
So I just sent that off to an individual who asked, and then I am seeing additionals. I'm trying to grab the PDF right now.
Okay, so
yeah, and then I can do that for sure.
Okay, the next, so you know who you are. So again, hopefully you have the plan in your hand, and now you're flipping to the next section, number 2, section 2, that's titled, Who Are Your People? And so as we jump into this section, what we really want to consider is that you have 2 primary audiences, and you have an internal audience and you have an external audience. And so your internal audience are your teachers, your staff, I would say your students. And then you have your external audiences. You may have multiple external audiences, which are going to be your parents, your current families, your potential families, your parish, your donors or grant funders that you might have. And so what's really important as you begin to craft your story is to identify who your people are, because how you dialogue and the conversations and the content that you share and communicate is going to be dependent on who your audience is. And so this is a process for you to reflect and consider who your people are. Who are your people? And so we've given you a little cheat sheet, thank you NCEA, with the list of what all parents want. And so you can see this on the slide. This is also in your marketing and communication plan template. And it specifically looks at what all parents want, that list of 9 attributes and elements, starting with critical thinking and ending with deepening religious faith. And that's for you to really consider, how do you speak to those needs? How do you meet those specific needs? And then looking specifically at what Catholic parents are looking for. And so this is an assessment tool for you. And so what you're going to want to do as you look at this plan is you're going to want to consider your different audiences. So you have Catholic families, you have your other partners and non-Catholic, and then you see on the bottom of this page, you have a place to write a paragraph on each audience. And so this is where you're pausing. This is where you're creating space to identify who your people are and put it in writing. And once you have it in writing, it gives you the capacity to share it with your team so that they can also help communicate.
Mhm. One thing that's not on this list is the power of your alumni. Your alumni is a unique audience that can speak super highly to their experience at your school. And then they also might be really involved in organizations like charity leagues or membership driven type leagues. And so having those individuals as part of your audience or part of your people is always good to remember as well.
The next slide, we're looking at section 3. And so if you have your handout in front of you, I want to encourage you to pull out section 3. And so you've identified who you are. This is basically like social and emotional learning, practicing self-awareness. Who am I? And now we're
doing this as an organization. We're doing this as an organization for your school, for your community. So
we practice self-awareness and we practice social awareness by identifying who your audience are, taking perspective on what your audience needs and are looking for so that you can meet those, as Julie said, very real and felt needs. Now we're going back to you as a school, you as an organization. And I'm asking you the question, and you're asking yourself the question, what makes us unique? What do we offer to our community that solves a problem or meets a very real and felt need? And so on these pages, we've given you some prompts for you to consider. What are you providing academically? One of and Julie, you can speak to this on some of the challenges in public schools that are opportunities really for you as a Catholic school. What are you offering academically? What kind of technology do you support your students with? Community is a really big deal. And in the midst of COVID-19, community is more vital than ever. So what do you offer as a community that builds community, that strengthens relationships, that equip students to engage with each other and engage as a healthy community?
Right. I think that as what you're really doing here is you're looking for your strengths. You know, what does your school really, what are your strengths? And when we look out at what the top problems or challenges that public schools are facing right now, is we actually see that the Catholic school system actually solves a lot of those problems. And so keeping the problem and solutions in mind is really important. And when we look at just a public school review from February of the top 10 challenges, some of the challenges that I believe a lot of Catholic schools solve are classroom size, technology, bullying, student attitudes and behaviors, parent involvement, student mental health. And so when I look at that, I also say, wow, those are very much a lot of social emotional aspects as well that your Catholic school can meet. And so putting down those strengths, putting down how you are unique in those areas is a really great starting spot for telling your story.
And we've talked a lot about how social and emotional learning is the filter which you tell your story. And again, going back to what makes you unique, what sets your school apart, it's part of it is social emotional learning, because only 25% of schools invest in a comprehensive social and emotional learning program. And so it is an opportunity for you to communicate all the benefits that flow out of offering social and emotional learning, from improving academic scores to equipping students with skills that are going to make them more employable, have greater access to college opportunities, decrease behavioral issues, increase mental health benefits. And so again, that's part of telling your story. And part of your story for sure as Catholic schools is the faith component that you offer and extend to your students and to your families. And Julie already talked about class size, but there are other things that you offer, whether it's CYO athletics or robotics programs or band. or other auxiliary programs that your school supports are incredibly valuable. And so this is space for you to really do an inventory, again, of what you're already offering. And I like what Julie said a lot. What are your strengths? Because what we want to hone on in the communication plan is the strengths that you already have.
And one thing I'll just throw out as we think about coming back from COVID and then possibly going into rolling surges, that parent communication, parent connection part is a really important aspect of Friendzy. When parents feel informed and feel part of the process, that they're partnering with you, it's much easier as a homeschool parent to feel engaged and ready to help teach their students. But if they feel isolated or kind of on the sidelines of something, there might be more pushback. And so through Friendzy, as Friendzy schools, you know that we already have parent letters, or this is a great time to remind you that we have parent letters that outline and create connection points for your families on every single unit of the Friendzy program. We also have kind of table topics, which I know for my family right now, we're eating every meal together. We have a lot of meal time together. And so those table topics about kind of just offering some conversations to your families is another way to engage in a positive way, because what part of Friendzy is creating positive interactions, so that if there are more challenging interactions or tension-filled conversations you need to have with your families, you have a foundation of positive interactions first.
Yeah, so what we wanted to share with you next was really what's your story? So now we're actually launching into how to begin to tell your story. So we're starting to roll our sleeves up. I hope you have your papers out. You should be turned to section 4 in your handout, into your Friendzy handout. And now we're at a point where you figured out who you are, you practiced your self-awareness and what makes you unique, and you've identified who your people are, your social awareness. And the next step is to connect your school to your people. And you're going to do this by defining the key messages that you actually want to communicate. And your story is what is actually going to compel people to engage with your school, to stay engaged. And here's the kicker: to invite other people in. So again, when you start telling your story to your internal audience, they begin to tell and retell your story to your external audience. And so part of storytelling is that you're going to need to repeat your story many times in many different ways. You're going to need to do it consistently. You're going to need to do it regularly. And I know Julie and I find this hard to do as an organization, because we think we've heard it all before. We've said it a million times. You're going to need to feel like you're telling your story a million times, because only then will it become part of your ethos, part of your DNA, part of your structure. And so this is the opportunity you to engage your community again, so that they become storytellers. And the only way to do that is by sharing your story consistently and regularly, and making the connection between what you offer with what the real and felt needs of your audiences are. And so now we're going to dig in.
It's actually the really exciting part, right? This is where the rubber meets the road, and you begin to actually communicate who you are in a visually appealing, unique way, right?
Yeah. Yes. And this is like what Julie said, where the rubber meets the road. And so I'm going to pull up the next section, which is going to be section 5. So everybody turn to section number 5. And in section number 5, it is titled, Where Can You Tell Your Story? And guess what we're going to talk about? We're going to talk about where you can share your story. And so we have a list here. It's actually listed across 4 different pages. This is not an exhaustive list. This is a list to get you started. And so when we talk about where you're going to tell your story, these are, as we go through this list, I want you to consider where this fits in with where you can tell your story. What are the opportunities that you have? And as part of the Friendzy program, we're going to give you templates. In fact, we're going to start here. And so let's just jump into this page as you're looking at, again, section 5, the first page. Where can you tell your story? Again, you're going to have your internal audience. This is your teachers, students, administrators, employees. And you're going to have your external audiences, which also includes students or potential students, parents, parishes, organizations, alumni, as Julie pointed out. Okay, so have that top of mind. Lock that in.
One thing I just want to hop in here, who tells the story to these people might depend on the size of your school. If you are a small school and your principal who's wearing all of these hats, then you are the leader that is going to be sharing your story or telling your story to your internal audiences. You're going to be sharing it at your staff meetings, with your parent-teacher nights, with your tours that you're doing with new potential families. And then you're also going to be sharing it possibly through websites or your external audiences. Some schools may share that load with a development or marketing person who might be in charge of the external audiences, and then also working with the principal and teachers for the internal audiences. And so I did want to kind of just halt here, because when we think of a plan, depending on the size of your school, you may be creating a team to implement and move through this plan, or you may move through this plan as a leader of this plan. And so anyway, I just think it's important to kind of make a note of that, so that as a leader, you can begin to think of, how am I going to be doing this, and who is going to be responsible for communicating my story or our story at our school with these different individuals.
And we're actually getting quite a few questions coming in about that. And so good job pausing on this. And so again, if you are leading a school and it's a smaller school and you're going to lead this team, I do want to emphasize that you are going to want a team. So it's either going to be at least 2 of you, one of you leading and then at least one other person participating to execute this plan that you're going to pull together. So again, you're going to have the initial planning phase, which were the first 4 steps, where you're defining what it is that you have to say. And then when we get to 5, 6, and 7, these are the execution components of your plan. This is the how-to, you actually get it done. And so you're going to want to, if you're leading that, you're going to want to lead this conversation in this process. But you're going to want to have support in executing the plan. And the whole point of the communication plan is to engage as many people as possible, as many stakeholders as possible. And so the larger your organization gets, this team is going to get larger. You probably don't want more than 7 people on your team, but you could, in larger schools, get up to 7 people into the planning process, which is steps 1 through 4, or sections 1 through 4 of this plan. And then people on your team are actually going to pick up different pieces to help execute the section 5, 6, and 7. So, okay, that brings some clarity. I think that's helping some people. Okay, great. So now here we are in section 5. Where can you tell your story? We've talked about our audiences, keeping those top of mind. And then what are the platforms that you can share? The number one opportunity for you as a school is your website. And so your website is where people come to find out who you are and what you offer. And so some of the things that you may need to do at the very beginning are to make sure that your website connects with the very real and felt needs of parents and individuals in your community. And so go through that list from NCEA of what parents want in general and what Catholic parents want, and make sure that your website verbiage connects directly with those components. And so as we're going through this, I want to tell you, we have examples and templates, and we keep saying this, but as part of the Friendzy program, we're going to have a Dropbox file where you can download them and look at them. We're going to have this housed on the website so that you can flip through and see ideas and copy and paste sample verbiage that you may want to include on your website that, again, connects with what parents' real and felt needs are. So website, I think, is the first opportunity to make sure that your core values, that who you are as a school is connecting with the real and felt needs of your families. The second thing that I think is one of the greatest opportunities for Catholic schools is social media. And so this was part of the NCEA research that identified that Catholic schools don't do a great job in general of communicating who they are, that 1 week out of the year, they do an outstanding job connecting positively with families and community. And the other parts of the year, there's a lot of quiet space. And so becoming active in telling your story on social media is an identified opportunity for a lot of Catholic schools. And so this is exciting for us as part of the Friendzy program, because here's the deal. In order to tell your story, you have to have a template to share consistently and regularly. And so when you start thinking about how you can share regularly and consistently, I'm actually going to flip through to section 6. And so if you can turn with me to section 6, I'm going to give you a second to get there.
And one thing I would just add right now is part of social media planning and success on social media is the consistency of it. And so having this plan allows schools to be consistent in their posting as well as in their messaging, and moving into summer where connection with your community is going to be, you know, even more decreased. This is a great time to begin building your presence on social media, specifically in thoughts of possibly having a rolling surges moving forward. Having that consistent conversation, consistent contact through social media with your families, with your community, with your students is a really amazing opportunity. If you are not actively posting or involved in social media, this is going to get you equipped to be able to feel comfortable to take that next step. And it's not too late. I would say that beginning now as you head into summer is a great time, because you can lightly begin to communicate, start setting some tone in your communication. And then when you come back in the fall, your people will be used to seeing you, and it won't be like, oh, we have to communicate on social media now because we're not connected in person. It will just be a normal thing that you're doing, and you're going to be set up to do it really well.
Okay, so this is, I think, going to be really helpful for you to think of, and then we're going to go back to section 5. But how do you create a communication plan? So the number one thing that is absolutely vital and necessary for you is to determine a theme that is going to drive communication on a monthly basis. So you need a monthly theme. Okay, you're all on the Friendzy program. Monthly theme. Every single unit comes with a monthly theme. You talk about your catchphrase, your key verses, and your teaching objectives for an entire month. This gives you an amazing framework to communicate and tell your story through the lens of these shifting and pivoting catchphrases that come out each month. And what that does is it gives you something to talk about, because if you don't have a theme, just speaking as somebody who has done social media marketing and has walked in that space, is that it's very difficult to create content, because content, you got to keep coming up with content. Well, that's the beauty of being on the Friendzy program, is that you already have your monthly themes laid out. And so when we go back to section number 5, you're going to have a clear idea of what content you're actually going to put in all those different spaces. And it's going to start with your monthly theme. And so the second thing is you're going to consider key events that are going to drive your communication. For example, It's the end of the school year. We're heading into summer. And so what you talk about in the summer months on social media, as Julie pointed out, to connect with your families is different than when you're launching your school year and you have your first day of school, or you're talking about Christmas or spring break, like their parents, grandparents day or parent nights, like all of these key events are going to filter into your communication cycle. And so your key events are going to be opportunities for you to talk and tell people about what you're doing. And so it's important for you to not only have a monthly theme, but to identify your key events that are going to impact your communication flow and cycle. And then the next component that you're looking at on section 6, so we've talked about bullet 1, bullet 2, we're looking at bullet 3 now. Set clear and compelling communication goals. And so you need to know why you're talking and what the point is. And then you're going to develop a monthly content plan that's going to drive all your conversations. And so this is where I want to pause and show you an example of what that looks like for social media. And so I want to go back here. And so we're looking at section 5. And we're looking specifically at social media. And so social media we've defined as a clear opportunity for you to tell your story. And so how are you going to tell your story on social media? Yes, you're going to have a monthly theme that's going to be a filter to help you develop content. And so what I want to do right now is I want to share with you a document that is an actual example of a summer social media marketing plan for you to use as a school. And so this plan has been developed and created with you in mind, and it is going to be a robust tool and resource for you to use. And I am pulling that plan up.
And so as Frenzy Schools, what the purpose of this is to give you ideas for sharing who you are. And if you want to take those ideas and do your own thing, then you can. But we also want to provide you with actual posts that you can customize to your school and your story. And so what Joy is pulling up now is an example of that we are gladly share with you after this, and eventually, and actually currently, when you're part of the Schools for Frenzy, you can go in and download these share squares off of a Dropbox link.
Okay, and so keep the questions coming. We're attempting to answer questions in the flow of conversation. So again,
right. If we don't get to a question, we will certainly email you offline. I'm doing the best I can to respond through the portal, but if we don't get to it, or if we don't answer your question, we will circle back with you in a personal email.
Yeah, or a phone call, because we like talking to you too. Okay, so here we are, and this is a format that you can use for social media. And so we've given you access to several templates. I'm showing you the one that has been developed in Google. And so I'm just going to scroll through it really quickly so that you get to see what this looks like. And so see how there are graphics. Graphics are actually created for you to use as they are, and then many of them are idea starters for you, or as Julie said, you can download them and enter your, for example here on this screen, where you can enter your school's website address or your school's logo on the content. So again, we're scrolling through these. You have access to all of these resources at your fingertips. This was written as a summer social media marketing plan for Frenzy Schools. And so we have a summer communication theme. So again, you need to have a monthly theme. Summer, we just selected one theme for the entire 2 or 3 months, however long your summers last. And that theme is building strong communities. And so again, that messaging is connecting with a very real and felt need. I think all of us are feeling disconnected. I think our students, our families are feeling disconnected. And so now you as a school throughout the summer are going to be meeting real and felt needs of families by sharing your story around the theme of how you as a school are building strong communities and care about building strong communities. And so in your communication goals, so we've laid this out for you, you get to talk about, what does your school offer? What need does your school meet? What problem does your school solve? And then look at your post goals. As you see on the screen, you see the word post goals. When you post on Instagram or Facebook, what do you want people to do? Do you want them to come to your website? Do you want them to comment? Do you want them to like what you're posting? And then here are post categories. And so these may vary, and this is going to become clear as I walk through the actual plan. And so we're going to take a few minutes. I'm seeing questions about how you would use this information. And so I think as we go through these examples, it's going to answer your question about how you utilize this post. So for example, our theme is building strong communities. Here in this plan, you're going to put a date on the top. See where it says the word date? You're going to plug in the date that you want to post this on Instagram, Facebook, or put it out on Twitter. You're going to put your goal. Now, again, what is your goal? Do you want people to come to your website? Do you want them to comment? Do you want them to like it? So you're going to write down whatever your goal is right here, one of those three things. And in this picture, or in this graphic for building strong communities, what you're going to do is you can create this image, use students from your own school who are in the picture, which I would highly, highly recommend. So I wouldn't just take this graphic and use it. I would take a picture of your own students, and we have some suggestions, and we can connect with you if you don't have the capacity to work in Canva or other programs to build your graphics. We have some really easy turnkey suggestions for you, and so we can connect with you on that. But this is a very easy graphic to create. You take a picture of your own students from your own school, you put this communication piece on top that says building strong communities, you drop in your website or your school logo at the bottom, and this is postable. You can put this on Facebook, you can put this on Instagram, and you can talk how your school builds strong communities. And so here's an example of a post. One of the things that Catholic parents care most about are academic excellence and faith formation. So again, you take a picture of your school and your students, and you tell a piece of your story. And so, and on each of the posts, notice the very last thing it says, what do you want the audience to do? Do you want them to register? Do you want them to visit your website? Do you want them to make an appointment to set up a school tour or a virtual tour? Do you want them to invite friends, like the post, share the post? You need to have a strong call to action at the bottom. And so this is a very simple template for you to use, or whoever's posting on your social media. So you've been given the ideas, and now you just get to execute on the ideas.
A question coming in, what is the verbiage versus the graphic? So where would they utilize the verbiage, and where would the graphic go?
Great question. Okay, the graphic, and Julie, can you see my pointer moving? Oh, you can't, okay. So what we're looking at here on the graphic this is the graphic right here. And so this is the picture with words laid over it. And so this is the graphic. And so normally for the graphic, you would put, we say update a photo of your students in the website. If you have the ability, I would put the words preparing students for life. And so I would put that in quotes, so whoever was creating that would actually put those words laid over the graphic. And if you can't lay words, or you don't have the capacity to lay the words over your graphic, that's okay, because you can just have a photo of your students, and then in the verbiage, this is what you actually write into the post, you would put preparing students for life.
Mhm. So you would post that on top of the graphic within a Facebook or an Instagram. That would be the text or the copy that is on top. But when you're explaining how your school does that, the verbiage, you wouldn't want to put all that verbiage on top of the graphic.
Correct. You just want a solid catchphrase, that type language that would go over the graphic, like you're seeing here with global citizens making a difference. And so,
Right, because we know that some of the algorithms within the social media sites really are the less text that you can have on a graphic is the more likely that your graphic will be shared. And so we see oftentimes schools advertising for a back to school night or an open house or tours, and they put all of the verbiage on the picture. And that actually, from an algorithm standpoint, makes it harder to have a wide variety of individuals to be seen. And so really what this is showing you is how clear graphics with a small amount of text on top of your graphic, and then utilizing that verbiage either above or in the side parts of the social media, right? Right, Joy?
yep. And so right now we're talking specifically, we'll get to some graphics that you don't have to do anything to. You could literally just post them. But these are ideas for you, again, this summer to begin to post and utilize in order to help you tell your story. And so, for example, right here, we are looking at a teacher highlight. So we're suggesting that you take a picture of one, or have a picture of one of your teachers or educators, and you can have their name over it. You can have a quote on it, or as Julie's pointed out, you can just have a straight picture. And then you, in the verbiage section, you can write text on what they're doing that is impacting your school in a positive way. You can talk about how they're qualified, what their talents are, how they've invested in the success of their students. And so what this is doing in telling your story is really profiling the qualifications and the skills of your team. And so this is a team building exercise, not only for your internal team, but for your external team. So we actually get in the habit of celebrating each other's strengths, and this is an opportunity. And you can take that same concept and idea and apply it to a parent, alumni, or community member, where you're featuring them and you're highlighting them. And what this is going to do is drive engagement in your community. It's going to create a cohesive community feel and vibe. And so this is an opportunity for you as schools to really highlight your people. This is a direct and targeted piece of communication that is inviting people to consider your school. So in this graphic, you can see it says Mother Teresa Catholic Academy, and then it talks about what you offer specifically. And so we're suggesting that you highlight things that directly connect with the parents and families that you're trying to reach. And so again, you have to take a look at your inventory of what makes you unique, what problems you solve, how that directly connects with what parents want and need, and begin to communicate that on social media. Graphics that are talking about social and emotional learning. Again, only 25% of schools are offering social and emotional learning. This is specific to you. The graphic says, did you know Our Lady of the Lake has launched a comprehensive program? That is on the graphic. See, exactly what's on the graphic is written on the graphic section. Then on the verbiage, it says, we have launched a comprehensive biblically based social and emotional learning program called Frenzy. Our Lady of the Lake is committed to teaching core social and emotional learning skills that help students manage their emotions, improve ability to set and achieve positive goals, feel and show empathy for others, to maintain positive relationships. So you see all of the verbiage is provided for you. You can utilize this graphic, drop your school website on there, and personalize this for you.
And I think that that is really important for states or districts where social emotional learning is mandated, because this is, as we know, 3 out of 5 parents care more about social emotional health of their students. And especially coming back from COVID, parents are worried about their kids who experience anxiety at school. Is that anxiety going to be higher now? Parents have now been in close contact with those little people for this many months. Is there going to be separation anxiety or separation issues that weren't there before? Parents are concerned about this. And so, communicating, again, especially in those states where it's mandated or in the public schools, having our private Catholic schools communicating that they are launching and supporting social emotional learning for their students is a really important aspect and vital in this period in time coming back from COVID.
And notice here, we've dropped in a suggestion for a strong call to action. So again, what do you want people to do when they read this post? Well, do you want them to contact you today to register for the 2021 school year? And so again, strong calls to action at the end of all of your posts. Here's another post that talks about your school specifically. Again, we provide templates so that you can directly and in a turnkey fashion create these on your own. But that again, here's the graphic and here's the verbiage on the graphic that really talks about what you're offering and what you're doing as a Catholic school. And this is directly tied to the Frenzy program. This is how Frenzy is going to help you tell your story. And so again, here is the verbiage that is listed, and then it ends again with a strong call to action. And so you're going to have over 20 to 25 templates to choose from. We've designed and created this for the summer months. We're doing the exact same thing, creating an arsenal of a social media plan for each month on each topic that's being launched. So each unit topic will have social media post ideas for you to execute and implement.
Joy, I also just wanted to circle back because within that marketing communication plan, you will see a blank template of this in that plan on after where can you tell your story in number 6. You will also see kind of a general outline of a month-to-month plan. And so depending on who's going to be implementing this or executing your plan for you, they may have a different way of doing it, and that's okay. But we've given you really 3 different ways to begin to implement social media. And we've spent a ton of time on social media because website, social media are really key areas that we believe specifically in this time of social and physically distancing. They're going to be really key aspects of communication. But as part of the Frenzy program in this media communication marketing plan and in our media files, really, we're coming up and equipping our schools with a massive amount of media. And so Joy, I think on that last page, or on, if you continue, yeah, so we want to just communicate that in addition to everything that we've just gone over, we have access to we are giving you access to parent night PowerPoints. So currently there's 3 different PowerPoints to choose from, along with the outline of speaking points. So you could actually go forward and cast a PowerPoint or a presentation, a parent night digitally or in person on the power of growth mindset. What is SEL or SEL self-awareness? We've also given you explanations of emails that you can do and ideas for your newsletters. Really, again, having this comprehensive communication package for social emotional learning for our Frenzy schools. And so if you have any questions about these other components, please feel free to reach out to us. I would say that we are taking suggestions and requests even from our schools, because we know that the landscape is ever changing. And so we love to have open communication and dialogue with our educators. And so if there is something that our team can partner and support you in, we are all ears and absolutely open, and we will continue to share best practices, best ideas, and creative solutions to the landscape that we're focusing. Here's my son, Dan. Hi, Danny.
Hi, Dan. One thing I would add to that as an example is that we had a request coming in that if we have any flyers or support material for the parent nights, so those PowerPoint presentations. And so that the answer is that we've had that request before. And so we're in the process of developing invites that you can email, that you can hand out to parents and families. So for example, one school in partnership with their parish wanted to offer a parent night on the power of a growth mindset. And so they wanted a flyer, an invitation that they can hand out on Sunday to their families, inviting them to this parent night or parent outreach on this topic that parents care deeply about. And so as Julie is saying, if you have ideas, like you want to do a parent night and you want an invitation, then we have an opportunity to develop some resources for you. And then I wanted to point out that there is a bulletin board, and so everybody on our Frenzy program can utilize the Frenzy themes. And so we have actual examples built out for you so that you don't have to start from scratch.
I'm muted because I've got family here, but I just saw recently these really amazing Bitmoji classrooms that are available for upload on Google Classroom. And so our design team is all over it. And so in addition to live bulletin boards that we can show kind of mock-ups of how to put that together, we're working with our design team to help, if you are still in Google Classroom, how to create a Bitmoji classroom that's just more engaging. Again, we're all about relationships. Anything that we can do to create connection and a feeling of safety and a culture of support for your schools, we're in. And so it's been really, what else do we have to go over, Joy?
So I think we want to end with really where you're going to be ending as a school, because we've covered a lot of information. So again, we're getting a lot of feedback that this information is helpful, that it's spurring on new ideas. We strongly encourage you to meet with your marketing team, with your additional team members, and share this resource. As we look at, and Julie touched on this, we have actual templates for you to dig into. And so as you have questions about those specifically, we have, as a team, our onboarding specialists. Many of you have met and connected with Holly. We have, as a team, are in place to actually connect with you one-on-one and answer specific questions. And so we're available to continue that conversation and really support you into 2021, as Julie keeps referencing, whatever that looks like. And so one of the questions that we're getting is, how and where will individual schools have access to these collateral materials and all of these components? Great question. So our design team is putting them in Dropbox, and so they will be included in your resource portal, and so you will be able to click on them, similar to how last year portal, and be able to download posters or supplemental material. And so we're going to house them there, and you'll be able to download them from there. And so our team is currently building that out so that you have access to it. I think as soon as this webinar is done, we're actually going to send out to you the PDF or the marketing and communication plan. We're going to resource you with the summer plan so that you can see what that looks like. And then we will also attach a landing page where you can find those resources. So that's the plan. That's a great question. And I do want to emphasize, oh, go ahead, Julie.
Sorry, and Canva will also be explained, because that is a key way that schools can easily kind of put this into practice, correct?
Yeah, Canva is a tool that is free and easy to use. So if you don't have like Adobe or other more sophisticated design programs, Canva is a really turnkey template that you can use to create the content that we are providing and sharing with you. And so that will be laid out as an attachment and a resource for you as well. We're super excited as we continue to talk about this. This is really a team effort. It starts with leadership, but it is beneficial to have a team so that everyone is doing multiple parts. So someone is in charge of getting the bulletin boards filled out. Someone is collaborating and connecting with the parish to create connection and invite engagement with families. Someone is running social media, and maybe that same person is updating your website. And so you have someone sending out your email blasts. And so, you know, one person, a marketing person may be able to do a lot of that, but I think the more people you can have engaged on your team and have them in a very specific lane is going to benefit you, because again, when your internal team is aware of your story and aware of your messaging, they are going to go out and share your story. And I think about your teachers. If they understand who you are and they're at the grocery store and they're talking about, you know, once we're not 6 feet apart all the time, they're going to be asked, what do you do? And they're going to be able to talk about your story in the language that connects with the real and felt needs of parents. And so again, it starts with you knowing your story and then practicing over and over 1,000 times, telling your story over and over. And so I want to end on the last page and just encourage you that this is a process. And so what we're inviting you into today is a process that you're going to do all year long. And so we're in this process with you. We're going to provide you each month new content that you can utilize and in telling your story. One thing that's really important for you to streamline is to assess, at least on a monthly basis, what's working, what's not working, what adjustments do we need to make. And so this final step, step number 7, what worked, what didn't work. So section 7 in your marketing and communication plan template is really important to evaluate with your team so that you can do more of what's working and less of what's not working. And so this is just, again, a robust plan and tool to get you in the process of telling your story. You're doing amazing, really good work in a time where I think it's really been highlighted how important teachers are, how important schools are, how important school is for creating connection and building community, and what needs it meets in the lives of students. And so literally, as school leaders, you are changing and investing in a generation of students and doing amazing work. And so here at Frenzy, we're excited to have a small part of the big work that you're doing.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for joining us today and just committing to, I just couldn't help but see growth mindset all over that last slide. And as leaders, we know that growth mindset is so important to continue to keep going. And we're just, you know, praying for each of our schools and our principals that you have the strength and perseverance and resiliency that you need to keep going during this time, and that you have practices of rest as well, so that you can come back and be rejuvenated and ready to hit the ground running like we know that you're doing. And so from our team to your team, we just thank you for being here. Thank you for investing in the lives of the next generation. And as Joy said, if there's anything that we can do or our team can do to support your team, we would be honored and privileged doing that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. You all have a blessed day, and we'll look forward to connecting. You know how to get a hold of us, and we know how to get a hold of you.
Yeah.